Whoa! Manga is dead. In the latest time, we have eaten good in the shonen manga space, getting served many amazing masterpieces such as Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Chainsaw Man, well, still One Piece, and the list could go on like that for a while. But as it must happen, and whatever you believe of the respective events, I didn't like most of them. All those manga except Chainsaw Man and obviously One Piece, because that thing isn't probably going to end in the next decade, had to find their inevitable end. And so in 1 year, one of the greatest lineups of big shonen manga to read just halved itself. As if all the current great manga just chose all to enter series at the same time. While normally more great manga are emerging from the empty seats the old ones leave behind as they go into their retirement, weirdly it felt as if we were hitting a drought and still are, where after one hell of a crazy lineup, Shonen Jump is going into a time where we aren't fed every week multiple chapters of the greatest of the greatest. I mean, we were talking here about a lineup, even though in my opinion they all faced their respective weakest arcs, that had Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero Academia ending in the same year. And I don't have to tell you how big of a deal those two manga actually are, featuring one of the craziest fandoms where one are full of delusional shippers and the other are just shitposters. Both very well known for their respective fields on the internet. In the end, Shonen just lost two manga that were considered as part of the so-called modern Big Three, even though this term is as vague and subjective as it could get. As they left, the only big shonen manga yet existing are One Piece, Dandadan, Spy Family and Chainsaw Man Part 2 that really have a solid impact on the scene currently. And still, exactly at this time where shonen was at its weakest, one manga emerged. One manga that yet didn't overtake the fandom but starting off with the potential to becoming one of the greatest of the greatest. Kagurabachi. A manga releasing at the probably best time possible to find unlimited hype and success, becoming one of the greatest meme read ever. Wait, did I just say meme read? Yes, indeed, Rock of the Past. Meme read sounds really disrespectful towards this manga, and it is. But with Kagurabachi's release, its fandom just consisted out of the people that memed the hell out of it. This wasn't a genuine fandom full of fans admiring the work, but basically just soul hate readers hyping it up, because people just didn't take this manga seriously. The release time might be the probably best indeed to find success, but for what cost? Because it was also one of the worst for becoming a respected manga, as it was also the time where Jujutsu Kaisen was about to hit its end. And I remind you, Jujutsu Kaisen's community had some toxic traits, especially around their leaking culture. But it had such an incredible impact that a Twitter account, GoJover, aka Miyamura, even was on place 5 on Twitter when comparing traffic share, placing above people like Mr. Beast or Joe Biden, who was at the time the president of the United States. Leaking culture was horrible. Parts of the unfinished chapter were leaked early on and people made up their mind before reading the finished product. So when Jujutsu Kaisen ended, there's also automatically a big reader base hungry and waiting for the next big thing to jump on. And this kind of toxic trait is inevitable to come with them. And so while the leaking culture of JJK was still at its peak, for some reason the same happened to Kagurabachi's first chapter, being oddly leaked besides JJK as well. People saw it and wondered why it was leaked in the first place, why this is so important that the first chapter already had to be leaked. Especially because the general concept of it was to be that it looked like a generic edgy shonen, and honestly, reading the first chapter myself, I can't even be mad about it. But with Jujutsu Kaisen still being at its ending, a very turbulent I might add, the community slowly has been left dry when JJK left, and Kagurabachi was just the perfect victim to pick on, with their now spare free time. The sole thing they saw was this new shonen that looked like a little edgy and generic and picked it up, not because they thought it had potential, but yeah, to just meme it, calling it the new big shonen hit, the new manga that is filling out all big free spaces alone, making jokes about it outselling One Piece, making up terms like Kagurabagillion or Kagurabaching to define the absolute peak it represents. And let me not begin with what they have done to just this one seamless color page of Chihiro, the protagonist. For you, this might look like a very normal, maybe a little edgy drawing, but I just can't take it seriously anymore after all I have seen. You get this panel and the term Kagurabachi phobic, him in front of the clearly showing Kagurabachi being the most hyped series ever. Fan art where it's Bocchi the Rock, Miku, or a Dragon Ball character. With 3 swords, clearly showing his free sword style is dominating Zoro's in every way. 6 times stretched a little to fit into the picture, with Pumice, Kagurabachi being so good it's even better than Kagurabachi itself. Well, one thing has been made very clear this time. People say in a one-on-one fight, always bet on Kagurabachi. I mean, even meme culture made a video explaining this meme. This was a big thing and it determined this manga's entire identity. Accumulating with its release such an incredible huge amount of hype, it's actually insane. I mean, even I heard about it, and even though this might sound like not a big of a deal from someone who is making YouTube videos about anime and manga, when it's about manga for some odd reason I get zero information. I mean, when I picked it up I didn't even know that people memed it before writing the video. I genuinely thought people liked it. I mean, I liked it and became a weekly fan, so I never questioned that aspect. And here we are. Even though Kagurabachi was heavily picked on, this huge hype still really helped this work to flourish. And instead of people enjoying to joke about it for around a week and drop the story right afterwards, Kagurabachi was able to catch people showing that it was worth staying and following the story. And now, the 3rd arc is about to end and the 100 chapter mark is to be reached, and Kagurabachi has never been weak, but is constantly becoming better and better. Hokasono being, in my opinion, probably one of the best newcomer we have gotten in ages. And I mean it. I'm shocked at how good this person is hitting the current zeitgeist of going as far away from the quiet moments, or as other people would call it, filler, bombarding his reader base with constant action, running from one fight to another, yet still delivering a story with a big narrative that is fun and thought-provoking to read. And here I am, I call it. When its anime adaptation is finally about to be released, this manga will at least be considered as one of the biggest shonen of this current wave of releases, and even surpass its current hype. But enough of all the things surrounding this work. What is this story even about? Kagurabachi opens its story with the sole concept of the craftsmanship of swords, bombarding the reader with more uninteresting and not as important information before revealing its 2nd page, the true aspect of the story. Our main character slicing up a group of people with the very sword that he has crafted 1 page before, fighting for whatever reason we will learn later about. By the way, very cool representation of the core concept of this entire manga, and especially its 1st arc, building up tension with this little twist that we already get to see how this young boy is killing people, before just silently going back to his past for the sake of catching the reader's attention. Our main boy is named Chihiro Rokuhira. He's living together with his father, a legendary swordsmith that is also the most famous of the entire country, Kunishige Rokuhira, the creator of the 5 swords called the Enchanted Blades that were the sole reason the country was able to be protected from a big war, making him a war hero to everyone. After the war has ended, he disappeared, got a son, and they live a happy life together in their little house outside the city, far away from civilization, where Rokuhira is teaching Chihiro the craftsmanship of a swordsmith. His father is a funny, super goofy and dorky guy that is more fun than serious. Also, am I the only one who thinks that not only his design, but overall attitude is reminding me of Hibino Kafka from Monster 8? I'm sorry, but they feel like the same person. Anyways, he's super amused like a child by little things as buying new goldfish to make his son a little surprise. Even though he isn't excited as he will be the one that must take care of them, and honestly, this guy is solely carrying the 1st chapter on his super big arms. Like, I really love Rokuhira, he is great. His very cheerful and nice demeanor reminds you of an actual shonen protagonist, others would say Kafka, but automatically makes him very easy to like. Especially when it's about Chihiro and his interactions, the difference in nature makes it extremely entertaining. Chihiro as the child being the more mature part of them both that must take care of everything serves his later character traits and flashes them out with a natural progression in mind. Also lets Kunishige Rokuhira quirky nature truly shine, especially considering his yet still remaining serious moments where he locks in, crafts together fully concentrated a sword together with his son, or teaches him valuable lessons of the weapon's true nature. But most important, their dynamic truly shows what matters here. They both care for each other. His father is trying to teach Chihiro valuable things and shows him everything he knows, and Chihiro, even though mostly doing all of the housework, admires his father and wants to become like him, a swordsmith. Even though his father isn't fully happy about it, as there is also a dark side when it comes to crafting weapons, as this being the core fundament of everything that happens after. It checks all the marks of finding the equilibrium of entertainment and building the characters that is needed to keep the reader interested. Also, even though this yet is still the beginning, I personally appreciate Rokuhira more and more over the story. This man embodies a big chunk of the entire narrative, having some big shit to burden, yet he manages to be a great father figure, still very happy and tries the best he can to craft a creative future with his abilities. Especially with one figure in mind that comes later on that takes a completely different approach than him. Even without him directly taking influence, you can see what kind of huge impact he had on Chihiro. And rereading this chapter, seeing him only for a few pages, still you can really feel that Rokuhira must have been a great guy who always had just the best intents in mind, and that's really great. Besides all of that important stuff, a fun thing I started to do and I think is also very interesting for everyone who enjoys Kagurabachi is to look into what their Japanese names actually mean. Their shared last name, Rokuhira, is split into two words, Roku, that means just plainly 6, and Hira, that's meaning is common, ordinary, or peace, referring to the original 6 enchanted blades and how they have brought peace to this country, both being in some way or another entangled to this event. Kunishige even doubles down on this concept, being written with the kanji kuni, that means country or state, and I guess shige. I actually didn't find the source where it's pronounced as shige, but still, the meaning of this kanji is respect and important, both referring to how the country is respecting him as a war hero who brought peace and undermines his importance to this country. Chihiro, on the other hand, is a little funnier, as his name splits into the kanji chi or sen, that's meaning is just 1000, and again, I guess hiro, but I didn't find the dictionary referring to it that way, but still its meaning being mineral or ore, and is part of words like kubutsu, that means mineral, or tanku, that means coal mine. What I think could be also a very neat reference to his overall very lying design on the color black. And even though his name isn't really revealing a big chunk of his character, it really fits Rokuhira himself, naming his own child basically or, instead of, as far as I could figure out, the ordinary way of writing Chihiro with the kanji of yet again, Chi for 1000, but Hiro for fathom or search, meaning something like 1000 questions, what would actually fit his story far more. And it's also, by the way, how Chihiro from Spirited Away is written. And in short, he can be easily translated as our goat, 1000 or 6 piece, and his father, country important 6 piece. Those names are truly Kagurabachi, Hokasono cooked. Interestingly, I said that the dynamic of them both makes Rokuhira and their bond truly shine. Funnily enough, in the contrast, I think Chihiro as the actual protagonist of the story is quite boring, without any interesting quality that makes him interesting enough to really like. He is not like other shonen protagonists. Yes, he indeed has the aspect of having a grand goal, being becoming a swordsmith like his father. But when it's about his character, he's a very monotone, serious and introverted child that whatever page you are looking at has always the same bored facial expression. A stark contrast to the usual very extroverted, loud shonen protagonists. We get a time skip in the middle of the flashback, yet Chihiro has still the same monotone bored ass eyes that get even topped by his story not becoming one of fighting for his dream, but a story about vengeance, creating one of the most edgy characters imaginable. Like, look what he responds when he's asked why he kept his scar on his face. So every day, I start the morning with fresh hatred. I think this isn't even something Sasuke would have said. Like, bro is trying to become the next Kirito or what? Do people even remember Kirito these days? I mean, their clothes surely resemble each other. I would even argue that even later on, Chihiro isn't really that deep of a character, but luckily the strong edginess is something he loses really fast. And the introverted yet determined aspect of him is what makes him truly shine as a personality. And yet still Hokazono has side characters like Shiba at the beginning that play the more less edgy and more extroverted quirky part, while creating a world that is truly captivating, and through this manages to let everything that revolves around Chihiro to be influenced with greater meaning. And by the way, great way to rephrase the word deep. Allowing Chihiro to be the basic shonen protagonist with a strong conviction that is never strongly changing, but it still is giving you the feeling of change through the change of goal and acquired understanding. Chihiro achieves on his path. As Rokuhiro said himself, and this is something the manga will quote even on his own later on, you're gonna have to look at the world through your own eyes and think about what kind of katana it needs and why. Slowly but surely we will learn to do that together. The words of my GOAT. And that is something that the first arc already does. Because of course the story isn't about Chihiro becoming a swordsmith. I mean, the second panel of the first chapter made it really obvious that he is going to kill. And also, a living parent in a shonen, this was already an obvious sign what is about to happen. Right? Being one day invaded by a group of sorcerers that have the goal to kill Rokuhiro and steal every enchanted blade he stored at his place, to assumably use one day their incredible power for something assumably bad. Leaving Chihiro behind, letting him see how not only the place he grew up burns down, but also how the father he loved, how the father he so admired is being killed right in front of him. The only thing he can make out being a flame-like tattoo on the invader's hands, planting a deep seed of hatred inside of his soul and the indistinguishable feeling of seeking revenge for his father and the goal of retrieving all the enchanted blades before something bad happens with them, becoming a revenge story. It's notable that the story isn't being introduced through the flashback alone, but only giving us a little glimpse into the happy past Chihiro had together with his father before introducing us straight into the current time, not telling the reader from the get-go what caused this change of mood inside of Chihiro, even though it's very obvious. As I said, Chihiro isn't really a catching factor in this story, but this way of storytelling is exactly what hooks the reader. It's a little cliffhanger moment that arises questions. It isn't spending too much time to establish one relation without saying anything about how the actual world we are placed in works. A task the second half of the beginning will do. After the assassination of Rokuhiro, we get to see a little older Chihiro that is seeking his revenge, looking for the stolen enchanted blades to retrieve them. The second half of the beginning opens up introducing us to the mafia clan called the Korogumi, beating the shit out of a citizen that calls them a group that rules the streets with violence, seizing all the land and money they want. Something they are only able to do as they are getting back up from a sorcerer. Not any sorcerer, but actually one part of the Ishaku Chihiro is looking for. Hence, obviously they get wind of it, heading to this place, helping the citizen by getting rid of those Korogumi. That name, by the way, was really hard to decipher to me, as the name is splitting into three words that are K, that means Yao, and is a line of the trigram of Chinese philosophy, and I honestly didn't look that much into it. I'm sorry. The kanji that represents long, that can be translated to the Chinese dragon or as the symbol of the emperor. And the most clear being the last, kumi, that meaning is plainly a group of people. Luckily, they aren't that important, and the meaning is basically, I guess, something like holy dragon group, something that sounds more generic, I believe. But don't nail me down on that, please, as this moment just serves as the introduction to basic sorcery and revealing the existence of it, but also the power of Chihiro's enchanted blade, the Enten. And honestly, its introduction is immaculate. Sorcery, and especially the one of the guy part of the Ishaku being able to create and control pine trees, is just crazy and stunning, and its power proven through this very horrible encounter. As Chihiro has beaten the people and the fight feeling as if it's over, the last standing thug gives up and is open to give them some valuable information. Yet before being able to do, he's losing his control to talk, screaming in pain as his body is being torn apart by pine trees growing out of him, creating a very scary and first look into the true capabilities of sorcery, how strong it can be, as well as giving a little glimpse into the tricky nature of the Hishaku themselves, being always one step ahead, preventing anyone who could potentially giving any intel on the Hishaku, even without the sorcerer needing to be nearby, as no intel survives, all of them becoming pine trees. But also Chihiro's moment fighting for the first time with the Enten is just crazy. But before, the meaning of the sword Enten itself is also very interesting, as it's split into the words En, that can be translated to Fuji, meaning deep water or abyss, and Ten, that's meaning a sky or heaven. So Enten can be translated around heavenly abyss, basically the middle between good and bad, being a clear oxymoron, something that contradicts itself. Or as a German, it's just the plural of the word Ente, that means dark. Yeah, well, whenever Chihiro tries to aura farm with this word, it isn't working on me. I'm just thinking about adorable little birds. Seeing Chihiro fighting with Enten is exactly the moment where you can already see Kagurabachi starting to shine a little. It's Hokazono's first old manga, and we already get to see how he experiments with dynamic fighting scenes and unordinary angles to make his panels more outstanding. The fights are bloody and every panel extremely captivating. And when Enten is drawn, it's the point when we really get to see those panels full of aura. The panels that promise us that this shonen will feature some hefty, crazy fights. Yes, they are indeed extremely edgy, and honestly, they still later on. And there's nothing denying that, but they are also very cool. For some reason, Hokazono really decided to make Chihiro in his first chapter this super cool guy, with his cool speeches as, "I have to cut them down," even though this is something he heavily tones down in his second chapter. Again, Chihiro is a serious type of character, but he's not this edgy throughout the entire story. And this little part is only the beginning of someone greatly improving on this fundament. I think the first chapter and the second overall as a beginning isn't entirely perfect, especially in its execution of Chihiro, and not immediately showing something extremely promising, as for example Chainsaw Man has done with his first. And yes, I will, whenever I encounter a first chapter, compare it to Chainsaw Man, because there's also no denying that it has probably one of the best ever. Yet Kagurabachi manages the important. It is captivating with its swords and his more brutal sorcery, highlighted with beautiful and creative panels that are just great to look at. You will definitely 100% wait for the third chapter after this. And there it already begins to not wait a second, going straight into its first arc, proving that it's truly capable of inheriting the most subjective and vague term of the title, Big Three. Damn. This manga is truly the Kagura GOAT.